my take on how my teacher Willem de Tours applies his leg work. What you do with this and how you apply it should be different. You and I are different. We're built different. We think differently. We move differently. That means you will do these drills differently. My friend Dave Olson, who is shorter, with a lower center of gravity, does this drill with some not so subtle differences. Watch Dave for a moment. Dave uses his lower center of gravity to his advantage. Because he's shorter, he starts out lower than most of his opponents. Plus, no matter how low his taller opponent tries to get, Dave can get lower still because he starts out lower. Continual awareness of where his belt is in relationship to his opponents is how Dave ensures his height advantage. You didn't know short people had a height advantage? Notice also how Dave's knees, how he bends those knees. If he feels pressure or a threat on his own leg, he simply lowers his center of gravity more by bending his knees to escape or even counter the potential attack. You'll want to do that as well. Being lower makes it easy for Dave to use his naturally lower center of gravity to uproot his taller opponent. Being lower, he can move into his opponent's space, causing an uprooting with a relatively small linear motion. Coupling an upward force with a forward and horizontal move allows the shorter player to move much larger opponents out of the way and turn the fight to the shorter player's advantage. Since Dave's striking range is also shorter than his taller opponents, once he gets inside, Dave uses grinding on the opponent's leg to further his defense. Again, having a naturally lower center of gravity makes this an automatic response to a leg threat, and after learning the drills, it makes it as natural as using your hands. Dave's personal method works for him. Mine works for me. We both practice the same drill, but to require Dave to do it the same way I do would be ridiculous. And the same is true for you. The point to all this is learn the drill. Get it down with all the details. Then make it your own. It's what my instructor tells us to do all the time. You've seen the basic drill. It follows our rule of keeping the shin oriented on the opponent and on his near leg. Of the two stances I asked you to remember, this uses the open stance, not the twist stance. Of the three methods, this one is characteristic of Silat because your arms are literally sticking to your opponent. Your movement is as though you're almost swimming through him. I grind. I'm swimming. I just dive in. Lanka 1A is simple, direct, easy to learn, easy to use. Let's take a quick look at how you might apply some of what you're learning in the drill in the street. If you're facing a hostile person and he's trying to get himself pumped up for doing something, he might be doing something stupid like this. Duck. You just take this and snag it down. Now what I'm going to do is step in. I'm controlling his arm. I've got his leg locked in. The finger grab forestalls my opponent's bending his knee to attack mine before I bend his, and then advancing on his leg shifts his weight back even further, limiting his ability to counter what I'm doing. If you're not comfortable with this, just shift off and let him have an elbow to the face in the process. Now let's apply the same thing, do it on the other side. From this side here, as he's poking at me, I'm going to reach up, snag the finger, pull it down. Now I'm going to lock onto his arm, provide a base here, step in. Now I'm taking his ability to resist completely out of it. He's got to fight this. He's got to fight this. Let's apply the same leg position, but let's see what he does when his position changes. And that's something we'll initiate, because you may not want to step straight in on the guy. You may have to step to one side or the other. You can use the Lanka to do just that. Rick here is going to feed me the same taunting approach. As he pushes on me here, I take the finger and pull it down. Now I'm going to go after his knee here. If I attack this with real gusto, I can rip out his knee, or at the very least send him sprawling away because he's me straightening out his leg. If I roll it to the side, now I get a different angle on him, and if I apply pressure here from the side, it's going to rip out the inside of his knee. Or I can just set him up for the counter from hell, where I give up the finger and go right to the head. Snap off the arm. You still numbered among the living?
Yeah.
Very good. Let's see how when you apply the leg roll, instead of the pressure, what you can do to the person's leg. Regardless of the technique that you use from here, my shin's already oriented on Doug's, a subtle roll, clockwise, counterclockwise, sets up some amazing possibilities. You might use that roll just to recover from a position where you were locked in, you slipped off, roll it out, pop it. There's a lot more that you can do with this. The idea is the roll sets it up. And it's a possibility, as we mentioned, when you get the grind in, you got better roll ability than when you put the knee in. When you put the knee in, but you slip, you're right into the roll. Again, I like doing that. In Lanka 1A, we focus more on the leg work than we do the hands. Right away, we try to get the student to see the potential that this leg work offers and to get him comfortable with working on the legs. But this is the most dangerous part of this kind of leg work training. A beginner can easily go too fast, buckle too hard, and damage his partner's knee. So do be careful when you practice these motions. Take your time. Do it slowly. This silat method demonstrates the first principle of Indonesian fighting arts, adhesion. I'm sticking to him. I'm swimming around him. I'm not breaking contact at all. The constant pressure on him keeps my opponent off balance. And because the contact is continuous, you should be able to do this practically with your eyes closed as you march through the drill. Now your arm and hand alignment in conjunction with your upper body. You want to start his weight shifting back. And once you get his weight shifted sufficiently back, you apply your pressure to this one. Now you get the weight on the back leg, and you can continue your counterattack. If you don't shift his weight back, you're going to have a whole lot tougher time going after this. Because if he's like this, again, he can argue with me. Once he's in this position, he didn't get to argue. It's a whole lot harder work unless you shift his weight back. I showed you the zigzag pattern earlier, but before we conclude Lanka 1A, let's walk through the drill one more time to help you burn it in. Rick? I'm going to line up. I'm on the 6 o'clock position on him. I've got his arm laid across his body. I've got my hand on his shoulder blade. I grind, which is the cue. He backs up. I'm shuffling outside. Going to feed the arm across. Then I move into the lock position. I don't put the lock down yet. Get my feet adjusted. Now I apply it. I grind, shuffle off. I'm moving behind him, though I'm inside his arm. I'm smothering it. I make sure I have good alignment here. I've got that triangle. I drive it forward to position him to shift his weight back. I get my position. Now I'm able to apply the lock, which is the grind, a cue, shuffle, feed it across, come in, place, adjust, grind. That's the cue. And then smothering, transfer, line it up, get it across his body, make the adjustments, grind. And we'll switch and go the other way. From this position, if I can, I want to pivot this foot all the way around. I apply pressure toward him, shuffle outside. So outside in that I'm going behind him. I'm inside his arm, but I'm going outside of him. Feed it across, line it up, move it in. That starts his weight back. Hand on the shoulder, apply the pressure. Shuffle again. I'm angling behind him, though I'm inside his arm. I quickly move this out of the way. Position my foot. Here I'm even stepping on his gi pants. Adjust the foot, then apply the pressure. Smothering it, feed it. Good line up. Foot to here. Adjustment. Grind and cue for the next. Stepping in, smothering this move. Across. Trying to rotate this foot all the way around. Bring it into here. Cue him one more time. Shuffling. You can hit him, you can do whatever you want. But it's just a drill, so we're not adding any of that. And now, we've walked it on the floor. Hopefully that'll help you burn it in to see it. Remember, it doesn't show necessarily where your feet are always going. It does sometimes, but not always. But it always shows your orientation, your body position, and your general direction. This is the first of two patterns you'll see today. As I said before, it's used in half of the Lanka drills we're showing you. I've worked on this for a long time, and believe me, you can overanalyze it, trying to outline every step's position and direction and the foot position. So don't overbrain it. Just remember, although your feet may follow the pattern, it is really intended to show only your general direction and body position. This is my friend and fellow student Neil Cabron. We can start anywhere, but in this step and shuffle movement, remember that 1A was a shuffle and step. Now we're going to do a step and shuffle. I'll begin with Neil withdrawing, feeding me the right punch, and we'll proceed from there. We'll go back and forth a few times and then we'll break it down. Neil? Let's break that down for you, see what we can come up with. As we move into 1B, we're moving into our Kuntao version. That one's going to use striking to set up our position. We're going to use the floor pattern again to give you an idea of where we're moving. Remember, your feet may move along the line, but it's really meant to show you your body position. And we're going to start here with Neil stepping in, left position here. I've got this lock on him. I grind. I'm going to step off. This is a step and shuffle. So I'm going to step off and punch. Then I'm going to use that to shift his weight back, allowing me to come straight in with the shuffle. Now I apply the grind, do it again on this side. Punch. That shifts his weight back. So shift your weight back, Neil. Boom. That shifts his weight back. I then come in, line it up and grind. Again I grind. 1, 2. So here I'm using block left, followed immediately by the punch. Feed it across, still the same alignment that we worked on with A. I want that triangle position. Shuffle in, make whatever adjustments are needed. Neil's really on a straight line here, so I wouldn't be lined up like I was here with Doug, who angles back, but with Neil, he's going straight back, so I want to line up in here. This pressure is maintained, hand up high, grind, step across, punch. That shifts his weight, feed his arm, prepare as I move in, everything lines up. And I grind and place on his leg, and then we continue the drill. Let's do that one more time. Come on down here, Neil. Left leg forward, please. We're going to follow the pattern. You block left with a punch. Feed the arm out of the way, using both my hands. Line up in here. Grind again. Punch. Feed the arm out of the way. Shuffle in. Grind. Here's the step to the step and shuffle. Here's the shuffle. Grind, block right with a punch. We've seen the step, now we go to the shuffle. We're going to do 1B, left to right. Break it down for you. I start off here, shin on shin. Got his arm properly aligned. I've got his foot at the 12 o'clock. My rear foot, I want to be at approximately the 6 o'clock line. So I grind, he steps back. I'm stepping in front of him and I punch. I neutralize the threat that gun poses just by hitting him. Then I feed this across, put my shin against his. Don't apply the lock, it's position. Make whatever adjustments are necessary so we stay on this 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock line. Got his arm buried, this hand covered high, then I apply the grind. As he backs out, I pick it up, fire the punch. Neutralizing that threat again, keeping this arm between us and well into my triangle. I then move in, make whatever adjustments, grind. I punch, feed it across, move straight in. Now we got shin on shin. Make the adjustment, apply the leg pressure as the last part of the movement. Grind, block left with a punch, feed this across and then move quickly in place. Make whatever adjustments, and in that case, this foot adjusted as I moved in. Grind, one more time. Punch, feed this across, move the leg in, grind. Lanka 1B, left to right. Let's shift our focus now from the feet into the hands so we can see what we're doing with our hands. I've switched sides so we can take a moment to look at what the hands are doing in all this. The blocks are simply block left and block right. I cover those in detail in reflex action. The punch itself is not meant to send him into time warp. It's just meant to rock him back a little bit to cause his weight to shift. You're going to use two hands to transfer the arm because two hands are stronger than one. And it keeps my hands in the field of play. If they're anywhere else, one hand, it's got to come back in. So it's a handy way of lining it right up. Once I get his weight shifted, I can then apply sufficient pressure to the leg. But I've got to have all these other things in line. So what's the other hand doing? Out here where you can't see it. Let's take a look at that. When you're doing Lanka 1, you want to have your rear hand up here, high on his back. You don't want to drop it, let it fall away. You do this primarily for two reasons. The first is for balance. You're using him to stabilize you. The second is for a faster parry. Since most punches in the West are aimed for the head or the face, putting your hand on his scapula, his shoulder blade, is approximately face height, and it allows you to pick up the incoming punch more quickly. Like this, I grind, pow. The pow is important in a fight. Make sure you use that. I think I've done it so many times in real life, I would do that in a real fight. From here, I grind, and my hand just glides off of his shoulder. From here, very quickly, comes right across, and I make the punch. And then I can continue the drill. Lock in, again, right off the shoulder, and lock in. So make sure you keep your hand high up there. It helps you get it off quickly, stabilizes your position. From my left shin-on-shin lock, I have my partner's left arm tucked away nicely, and I press against his leg, grind, cue him, and I punch. Okay, one more time. Grind, press, punch. Now I'm using what I call a block and evade here. The block and evade, it's a simultaneous block and step. It's not a coordinated one, it's more simultaneous. I'm actually going to use Newton's third law of motion, the action and reaction principle here, to speed up the blow. I'm using gravity in that third law. With Neil in a horse stance, it's demonstrated this way quite easily. I can stand on one leg and hit him. this is the action. The resultant reaction moves me over here. So that when I'm dealing with this punch, I'm actually using this drive in this direction, this natural resistance, gravity as I pick up my foot to move in this direction. And you can do that with a block, but you can't do it with a punch. Let me show you why. You don't want to punch with only one foot on the ground. That's grossly inadequate as far as a base is concerned. A truly effective blow requires a good base. If you don't believe that, just try firing a cannon broadside from a canoe. Both feet then have to be down. When you fire your counter punch, block across, the punch you have to have the weight down. Now my apologies if this seems much over nothing, but it's one of the details that's so often forgotten. I mean, everybody knows how to punch, right? Again, you can block off balance, but you can't punch off balance. Remember, this is a drill. In a real fight, I'd rather whack the guy some more. But an important part of the drill is how I transfer his arm, because that affects off balancing, which is really the key to effectiveness in the Indonesian leg work. As Neil comes forward here, what I want to do is start from my position. I apply pressure, step across, punch, feed this down. Now here's where the alignment comes in. I move in, I've got his arm in place. Before I apply any grind on this, I want to see 3 dots. The 3 dots, from my perspective, are equal distance apart. The fist makes 1 dot, his foot makes 1 dot, my foot makes a dot. So if I was looking straight down, straight down, straight down, I have 3 equally spaced dots. From my perspective, maybe not from anyone else's if they were looking at it from here, but from my perspective here, I see 3 dots. This is the alignment that you want to have as you transfer the arm and switch it over. Don't pull it in front. Line it up. 1B8. It helps to think of what you're doing as shifting gears. First gear, that's the punch. Don't overextend it. Second gear, arm alignment. My elbow is anchored, and his arm is laying across him.